We just felt that we couldn't continue anymore as Star because we felt we drifted. We were much further from as a band than what Star was. Like we developed into a new band, and that was Scream Idol. We've just felt differently. Didn't feel comfortable calling it Star anymore because it wasn't Star anymore.
It was a decision that we should have made a while ago,
Yeah.
but we decided now, it seemed like it was perfect.
That's
now.
true.
We always thought about it,
We just kept putting it off until the new album was about to
And
be
now
released.
it seemed like the perfect time to do it.
And it seemed like now here's
we never
the
pulled
time.
the trigger until now we felt this is the time.
Well, besides the musical differences, it's a reflection of where we are now as people, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas, Star was a different era in our lives. And, the music that you create reflects what's happening in your life at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely reflecting a different era in our lives. Mm-hmm. Not a more mature era or anything like that, but a different era.
Yeah.
But no, musically it's different because we are a trio now, we have, we can go into the obvious differences. We don't have a lot of solos anymore or anything like that. It's just, quick pop-oriented, heavy rock and roll songs.
You'll get the attitude and the true grit feeling that we have on stage.
We haven't abandoned our rock and roll roots.
Oh, not at all.
Hopefully that people won't be disappointed, if they come to the show thinking we're Star, because we haven't changed our rock and roll attitudes, that's for sure.
Sarah wants to rock and roll. This anticipation gets me down. Too much complication gets me down.
You know what happens, man. It's like you're partying, you're drinking, you're fucking chicks, and you just get into this whole trip of like, okay, it's gonna happen, we're doing it, it's getting better, we're doing it better, we're re-recording it, we're doing this. Meanwhile, you're playing and everything is going good, you're feeling good, you feel like you have this momentum, and you just keep putting it off. You just keep thinking it's gonna be better and it's gonna be better. And that's what happened to us. We just got into this rut of, well, now we don't play this live this way, let's change the recording, let's re-record it. We recorded this album like 4 or 5 times, man. This album has been recorded 4 or 5 times, different variations of the album. Months went into years and it just kept going, man,
We just got caught up in our lives, partying, and it's, happy, content.
That had a lot to do with it. And you always felt that you can do it better. It's actually recorded in 3 different places. We had set up this, our own little studio for recording where we had built a guitar box, vocal booths, and all that. And a good 80% of it was recorded there. We have no outside producers, man. Only the mix guy, which is Mickey Mess, our old guitar player. Through the years, we worked on different gear and worked in a lot of studios throughout the world. And there was certain gear that we really liked. So what did we do? We went and we bought that gear and set up our own little situation with just our gear. The stuff that we used over the years, and we set up our situation when we can get the same quality and sound that we were getting in the studios. We built our situation at home so we could do that, so we can have a lot of time to record and re-record and work on songs like that. It should have been last on the album. I guess it's cool.
Yeah, it's fine.
First. It's it was never really released. A lot of people around us and on the scene knew it because we were promoting it or whatever. But it was never officially released on the market.
Correct.
So we figured, Dude, that's the excitement of it, man. I'll tell you, the best part of this whole rock and roll trip, man, is getting your band off the ground. In the old days, it was going down to the Sunset Strip and handing out flyers, or going, in Manhattan, downtown, and handing out flyers and stuff. And that was the whole exciting thing about it, man. Hey, come to my show, man. I love it. I loved it, man. And maybe one of the reasons I feel excited about this whole change is because I feel like, man, here we go again. Like we did when we were a little younger.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's a brand new band from New York City. Star.
Hard to say. We played both. We were from both places. We played both scenes. So they consider us a New York band because we signed our first deal in New York City. But we originally formed and played in Los Angeles.
Yeah, the first shows were in LA.
The New York scene that I grew up in, that I was too young for, I can't speak to. But I can speak to the New York scene of the 80s and 90s, and it was different. I think it was a lot more creative than the LA scene, man. It was a whole different type of bands. It was a step ahead of them as well, as far as new music coming out, and the whole punk, the new wave scene, I think they were a step ahead of that. That was the main difference, man. I thought it was more cutting edge. It was more European influenced. It's more of an international city. I mean, not that LA isn't, of course, but nothing's like New York, It had that cutting edge energy. Drunk.
Yeah. I was just gonna say,
it was fun. It was exciting. There was a lot of bands. That's what made it fun. It's like everybody was in a band. Everybody was in a band, and it was exciting. We didn't care about getting paid to play or anything like that. Everybody just played to present their show. The whole concept of the band is like we get a band together to present our show and do something big at some point. One difference today is like you see bands getting together, they haven't played a show, and they go and they approach club owners and they're like, well, how much are we going to get paid? And it's like, well, how much should you get paid, man? How much money are you going to bring in to get paid, But anyway, I digress. But that was the difference, man. We used to get together because we wanted to present our show. We wanted to express ourselves. And that's changed over time, I think.
It was never about money either. It was always about just hanging out, partying, the whole camaraderie with bands and having fun. And
Never let me down. Gonna be a rocker 'cause she looks like that. Baby, never let me down. Gonna be a rocker 'cause she looks like that. Gonna be a rocker 'cause she looks like that.
It's the same.
Yeah. I'd rather be here right now than New York, to be honest.
Well, I'll tell you this. The Scorpions are playing here in front of 60,000 people at the Olympic Stadium. I guarantee you the Scorpions would not sell 60,000 tickets in New York City right now, except for like the old people that will go there for nostalgic reasons. Sure. I hear this a lot, but man, I'll tell you, Europe for us, it still rocks, man. Thank God.
Yeah, it doesn't. Just people liking liking rock is a rarity now in New York. It's all like
it's different. It's
changed.
When was the last time you heard of a band coming out of New York or LA, a rock band? Look, the last few years things have changed. It was better here though. you know, before the crisis and the pandemic and all that. It was okay. But, you know, that has nothing to do with how you live your life, man. And how, you know, you're not going to live differently because something else, you know, there's not enough clubs or something like that, you know. Rock and roll has always been an underground art. Anywhere you go, you think like in America when we were touring, we didn't get heckled on the streets, walking in the streets. Believe me, you know, I mean, that happens everywhere, man. The worst place where I was actually scared for my life was in Georgetown. You remember the Georgetown University over there by Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, Washington, D.C.
Man, we were scared to death there. We couldn't walk down the street. They were heckling, yo, you know. So you'd be surprised, man. You know, rock and roll's always been a subculture, you know, and the mainstream will always react to you at like you're an underground individual, and it doesn't have, and even whether you're here, if you're in America, man. Believe me, there's places in America where
you don't want to be.
You don't want to be there glammed out.
What about the truck stops and stuff?
Yeah. That's a good question. You know, man, I think it might have to do with, like, no matter, I think how you grow up, what's instilled in you as a kid is very important. When you grow up in a country where rock and English-speaking rock music is not really your native thing, it's really hard to kind of absorb that into your personality as you grow up, I think. I think that's the element missing. You know, sometimes, you know, I don't want to be derogatory, but sometimes when I see some bands, not only from Greece, but some other countries, playing rock, and it seems like Madonna playing Rebetika music to me. You know what I mean? They just don't have the culture. They're mimicking it. You know what I mean? They have, it's not inside them. They didn't grow, they didn't develop that way. They became that way after a while. I think in America and in England, the advantage you have is the mainstream music, the pop music is pop, rock, and stuff like that. Whereas in other countries, the mainstream on the radio, when you turn on the radio, is the, you know, the music of that country. Years ago, the music industry was looking for bands that had their own sound.
Character.
You know, I mean, you think of the old bands, the big bands, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, the Beatles. They all had a completely different sound. Now, it's exactly the opposite. They want bands that sound like the proven hit makers, man. That's why so many bands sound alike now. Honestly, man, for me, especially with these screaming vocals that everybody does now, you can play me 10 different bands and tell me it's the same one. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't tell you, oh, no, you're wrong. I swear to God, man, it sounds the same. They all sound the same. I think it has to do with the music industry gyrating towards that mentality, man. You know, they started putting bands together like the Backstreet Boys, and they started constructing bands and creating a standardized product. The thing that Motley Crue, Nirvana, and Guns N' Roses had that these other bands don't have, that the record companies weren't looking for, is that they were original, man. They were big because they were original. If you want to mimic something, mimic originality. Don't mimic what somebody's doing.
Correct.
Mimic his mindset of being original. You know, that's why they were the leading bands. Like, they were original. Nirvana spawned all those bands. So did Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses. You know, they weren't a result of that scene. There's a lot of other bands that were a result of those bands. know, maybe our whole, this whole rock star band thing, maybe that's done. Maybe we're not going to be seeing that anymore. Maybe things have changed, that we're not going to see these big rock stars anymore. There hasn't been a major rock star in years. Yeah. In years, man. I think who's the youngest major rock star? Is he over or under 60 years old? I mean a rock star, man, like Mick Jagger or somebody like that. You know what I mean? Like I heard a discussion the other day saying that the only rock star left is David Grohl. That he's the last one of like a real rock star. That I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm just saying maybe things have changed. I mean, look, bands have changed, man. Yeah. I don't blame these kids for turning their back on a lot of the rock the last 20 years, man. It sucks. Let's be honest, man. There's nothing original. It's the same old sound, same old style, same old formula. I don't hear anything original. Now you're going to say, why, Johnny? Are you original? No, but at least I have my own attitude. Like when you put on Scream Idol, I think that you know it's Scream Idol. And that's the whole thing. There's nothing new. You're not going to write a new progression or anything. Everything's been written and done by a million times. It's the character, the personality you put into it. And it seems like everybody's not only copying the formula and they're copying each other's personalities, man. It's like crazy. Yeah. And so I don't blame these kids for turning their back on because it's not exciting. It's not exciting. You know what? It's kind of depressing, man. Yeah. All these rock stars are like so doom and gloom, man. That's not what rock and roll is about, man. Rock and roll is about dancing, about being with chicks and having fun, man. Yeah. I don't know when they decided that rock and roll is so heavy and gloomy, man. Mm-hmm. So if you're a kid, right? And you're watching this video of a rock star that wants to kill himself. He's drowning. He's like, in misery. Boring, and then you switch the channel and you're watching a rap video of this guy with chicks at the pool and chains and drinks.
Yeah, you're gonna be attracted to that.
What do you want? What do you want to be? The miserable rock star that wants to kill himself because he's so sick of his money, or the other dude, man, that's celebrating life. I'm not saying the money thing, the gold chains and stuff, not that, but the chicks, the cars and stuff. I mean, look at the difference between a rap video and a rock video these days. Come on, as a kid, without some ideology or anything like that, as a kid, what would excite you, man? That was the beginning of the end, dude.
What?
The grunge, yeah. Dude. I was in Paris in 90 something, in the early 90s, and they asked me something about that, and I said that. I go, this is trendy music, and it's not good for rock and roll. And the guy at the radio station, he just said to me, Pearl Jam rules. Okay, look at years later, man. I turn on the radio now. I haven't heard Pearl Jam on the radio in a long time, but I still hear Led Zeppelin, man, all the time. And the Stones, and Pink Floyd, and all these classic bands. So I was right. I was justified. It was music of the decade. It was trendy music, and it didn't help rock and roll. It took it down some dark road which had nothing to do with rock and roll roots, man. Rock and roll was dancing, hence the name, rock and roll, man. You dance, you have fun. It's certainly not the band's fault. They were just expressing themselves the way, it's just the way that it was adopted and cultivated and by the music industry, and it just replaced rock and roll bands, man. a good show.
Yeah.
A good show, you know. I don't know, we're trying to, we've upgraded, we have a brand new show, man. You know, it's good, it's like nothing like the Star show other than us doing it.
Yeah.
So, you know, hopefully it'll be something rejuvenating and fresh. You know, our whole thing is we want to sound fresh. We feel that way, man. You know, it's like we're not stuck on yesterday's music. We never were, you know. We're always listening to new stuff, and you know, we want the way we feel about new music. We hope the fans feel that way about us, man. That we have some kind of contemporary vibe, some modern vibe, man. Something that, you know, could take rock and roll, you know, to some other level at this point.
Only my stereo can kick it down, baby, she's my fire whore. Only my stereo can kick it down, baby, she's my